Alrighty, everyone. Welcome to the third monthly meeting in our community engagement series for the City of San Jose Housing Department. We appreciate everyone joining us today. Today's meeting is going to be focused on the new gap financing regulations that the Housing Department recently rolled out. And there's an associated RFP that goes along with that. So we'll be talking about the RFP and the new underwriting regulations. And I'm going to introduce our deputy director in just a minute, and she's going to walk us through the content for today's meeting. But I just wanted to do a little bit of housekeeping first before our deputy director takes over. So as we do each month, if you would like to submit questions to us, please use the chat feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And then I will read those questions in the chat to our deputy director after her presentation, and she'll be able to answer those questions. So please, again, use the chat function to ask questions. Also, I will, during the meeting, I will put a web link in the chat for everyone to see, and you can copy it if you want. The web link that I put in there is where we archive all of these meetings, including today's meeting. So within a couple of days, we will have up on the website for you or anyone you know who misses this meeting, we'll have a transcript of the meeting, a recording of the meeting, as well as the presentation that we go through in this meeting. And so I'll put that link in the chat so you all have that, and feel free to use it to share it with anybody else who can't make the meeting today, so they can catch up on everything we discuss. And then the last thing I wanted to say in terms of housekeeping is if you have any questions after the meeting today that weren't covered in the presentation or in the Q&A afterwards, you can feel free to email to me, and I'll be happy to help get those questions answered. I'll put my email address in the chat as well, but I'll say it now. It's jeff.scott, jeff.scott, at sanjoseca.gov. And so again, I'll put that in the chat as well. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Banu San. Banu is our deputy director, one of our two deputy directors in our department. And Banu is going to be going through today's presentation.
Hi, everybody. I just want to make sure my microphone is working. Okay, it is. All right. Well, welcome to the meeting. I'm Banu San, the Deputy Director of Production Preservation here at the City of San Jose's Housing Department. And today we're going to be going over the new funding regulations, as well as the request for proposals for new production. And Jeff, do we have the slides up?
Yep. Yep. I'll go ahead and share my screen right now.
Okay. Thank you.
And so I'll just advance them as you go through, Banu.
Okay, sounds good. So today's topic is going to be covering the multifamily gap financing program regulations, as well as the request for proposals, as I mentioned. We can move to the next page, Jeff. Thank you. As we continue our investments along the housing continuum, build on more permanent housing. We're looking to continue to invest in production of housing, preservation, and look for strategic ways to advance our overall housing stock. And in that, we want to ensure that we have policies and programs that support this work. So to respond to the current funding landscape and the need for housing production, affordable housing production, we have now updated our gap financing program regulations, and with the purpose of really streamlining with other lender regulations, really simplifying and making more transparent compliance in terms of our developers, and really reducing the redundancies and streamlining the processes to just make the project timelines much faster in terms of process and closing. And we will, under that, prioritize projects that are really shovel ready to move forward to construction. And that will continue to, we're going to be continuing our focus on that as well. So these updates are going to be supporting, as I mentioned, our continued production and as well as our RHNA goals. Jeff, we can move to the next slide. Thank you. So what are some of the things that we revised and updated in our funding regulations? So all developers that are looking for city funding and of course bond issuance if needed for affordable housing will need to comply with our gap financing program regulations. These were previously called our underwriting guidelines. We're now calling it gap financing program regulations. And there's 3 different documents that you will find on our website. The 3 documents are basically funding regulations, new construction regulations, and preservation regulations. So the funding regulations apply for all of the affordable housing developments. And it contains the policies and requirements related to housing. The new construction will apply to all new affordable housing developments, and supplemented by the other regulations that are on this page. And that basically covers our underwriting requirements. So that's its focus, and it's going to be pretty concise and clear to understand when as developers work on their performance and financial projections. And then lastly, we have our preservation regulations. So we have separated these to make it easier for developers and more efficient when it comes to trying to understand what it is that the city is prioritizing when we're looking at our applications and underwriting our proposals. I think that's on that. We can move to the next slide, Jeff. Thank you. So the city released a rolling funding proposal, RFP, on April 14th. And the key priorities for that RFP is expanding our affordable housing stock. And again, providing housing for the extremely low to moderate income households. Prioritizing shovel-ready projects, so those that have secured entitlements already, as well as majority of the funding, and they're coming to the city as the last funding gap provider. And then looking really at cost efficiency in the light of the increase in construction costs over the past few years, 2023, 2024, double-digit increases, and it has become more challenging than ever to build housing. And we want to be able to see whether developers can come forward with innovative solutions to lower cost and really maximize the use of our funds, which are limited at the moment, while leveraging other funding sources. So we'll be looking closely at those in terms of the proposals. Are you maximizing the number of units you can build? What is your per unit cost? And how does that compare across the spectrum of various proposals we're receiving? And we're really trying to maximize every dollar that we can invest in these projects, along with our partners, in alignment with our partners as well. So we'll continue to move the process forward to keep a pipeline of prioritized projects. And as we move forward to align our funds, continue to move forward to align our funds with our partners like the county. And we're going to be looking for innovative funding sources, solutions as well from developers. Then this RFP will have a wait list, and we will continue to manage that wait list throughout the year. And we will post this wait list based on the scoring. This RFP is completely quantitative, and the scoring is how the decision will be made on the ranking. And we will be publishing those scores on our website. And the eventual NOFA that follows the RFP that will be published will fund the top scoring projects. Next slide, please. All right, so this RFP is different than our previous NOFAs. I mean, the past 4 or 5 NOFAs we've published since 2018 had very limited windows of application and then evaluation, appeal period, so on and so forth, and the window would close in maybe 2 months or so. This RFP is not structured that way. It's sort of a rolling RFP where we'll continue to accept applications and it will be active for 12 months. There will be 2 NOFAs that will be published. So as applications come in, you should be following those NOFAs, and we have the first that we're planning to publish in May, and then a second round of NOFA in fall during this 12-month window. And as you submit your applications, you have the opportunity to actually go back and send the city updated information if things change along the way. So it gives developers a little bit more flexibility and continuing to refine their proposals. I think that's it. And the next slide is just I don't think, okay. These are our contacts for the RFP. So if you have any questions regarding the RFP, you can send an email to Monica. And you can submit all your questions all the way up to March 3rd of 2026. And then in terms of the gap financing program regulations, there's an email on the screen, housingfinance@sanjoseca.gov. You can send your questions regarding the regulations to that inbox as well. Next slide. That brings us to the end of the presentation. Jeff, I think we can now see if there's any questions. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. All righty. So I'm also going to post a couple of the email address or the website addresses that I mentioned previously. I'll post them in the chat momentarily. But if anyone has any questions for Banu or for the staff, please, like I said, use the chat function, put your question in the chat area, and we're happy to answer as many questions as we can. Okay, so Banu, the first question is this person wants to confirm the prior wait list, any previous wait list, is that now defunct or no longer in effect?
A question I expected. So yes, wait lists that we established in prior NOFAs, all those proposals will need to reapply and refresh their applications, and will be rescored and reevaluated.
All righty. All right, next question. Will this gap funding be available to small scale developers and also new developers and investors who haven't previously built in San Jose?
Yes, it will. And we do talk about that in the RFP documents. The question is maybe more towards emerging developers. And this RFP does address, an opportunity for smaller developers to participate in development proposals. And the details are in the RFP about that. But if you have further questions, please reach out.
All right, and to bring everyone's attention to, I just put a link in the chat. That link will take you to more information about the NOFA and the RFP that Bonnie's talking about. All right, so let's see. Next question. We have quite a few. So do you have any estimate of the amount of funds that will be made available through the 2 NOFAs that you've discussed?
Yes, well, not the 2, but at least the first round. Trying to find my notes about that. If you can give me a second, please.
Sure. Okay. And again, if you anyone out there, we do have several more questions, but if you want to submit your question in the chat, send it to me in the chat, and that way it'll pop up on my screen and I can read it to Banu.
All right. So the first round of NOFA will be around $50 million. And we're still working on the second round to determine how much that will be. So that's the second round will be in the fall, as I mentioned.
Okay, so let's see here. Another question. The RFP says this person's obviously looked over the RFP. The RFP invites affordable housing developers to submit proposals, but they point out the RFP goes up to 120% of the AMI for housing proposals, up to 120% AMI. And so can you just clarify, is that considered market rate? Is that considered above market rate, below market rate? Can you just kind of clarify why the RFP goes up to 120% of AMI?
I believe that is because it is 120% AMI is considered moderate income.
Moderate income?
So, yes. And who's our other panelist? I think that's the reason we have up to 100. I'm trying to see where it was in the documents for them here. Because I haven't seen that exactly. I haven't seen 120%. Did that individual point out the section? Because I have the RFP in front of me right now. That would be helpful.
No.
Maybe it's in the intro page. Let me have a look here real quick. I do not see any language on 120% AMI.
Okay. Well, we
So
can.
I'm not sure if that's correct. I'm not seeing it in the RFP.
Okay. Well, I have the person who asked that question. I have their name, and I can reach out to that person afterwards just to confirm. But it sounds like, Banu, what you're saying is you think that it's from extremely low up to moderate income. I think is what you're saying the range is for the RFP.
Right, but it is not up to 120% AMI. But what you stated is correct, Jeff.
Okay. Okay. I can reach out to this person afterwards just to make sure that we're all on the same page. All right. I have another question for you, Banu. Will the money given out through this NOFA process will it be able to be combined with FHA and any other first-time home buyer programs?
This RFP is not designed for single family projects. It's for multifamily, and we specify that in the
Okay.
document.
Yeah, so I think I believe, and I might be misinterpreting, I think this person was really asking if the money you're talking about is actually available to home buyers, but really what we're talking about is for developers, right? I just want to make sure we clarify that.
This RFP is designed for multifamily housing residential developments. That's correct.
Okay, great. Yes. So just to clarify for the person who asked that, the money that we're talking about today is not designed for home buyers. It's designed for home developers. All right. Next question. So you mentioned that the current RFP is going to remain open until April of 2026. And so does that mean that there's going to be perhaps more NOFAs beyond the two that you've already mentioned, or is it just going to be the two NOFAs?
So in this 12-month period, there'll only be two NOFAs.
Okay.
And then when that 12-month is done, we'll work on publishing a new RFP. We will see what the funding will be, and it will follow a similar cycle, depending on our funding, of course. So the number of NOFAs we have will depend on how much funds we have. But based on our current funding, 2 is the most we'll have in this 12-month window.
Okay. And let's see here. And I think I know the answer to this, but Banu, I'll let you answer. The question is, will any of this money be available to people who are developing or building ADUs?
Or you can answer it then, Jeff.
So I believe the answer to that is no. Again, this is not for single family or single unit developments. This is for the money that we're talking about in the RFP and in the NOFA is for multifamily, like apartment buildings and multifamily developments.
Correct. Yes.
And then next question, the person wants to clarify the timing of when they have to make submissions to the housing department. So to get any funding at all, or to be eligible or to be considered for any funding at all, do developers have to submit their applications or their responses to the RFP before the second NOFA is issued in order to be considered?
Oh, can you repeat that question again? I just want to make sure I understand it right.
In order to be considered for any of the money in the NOFAs, does a developer have to submit their application to you before the second NOFA is opened up?
Okay, so I hope I'm understanding this correctly. So you can submit the application anytime, right, during the 12 months. And you know, so we already have like a bunch of applications that have come in, and we haven't published the NOFA yet. So any applications that are coming in prior to the first publication of the NOFA we're going to be continuing to score them, and we will, you know, rank them, publish it, look at these. And so if there is a you know, award that's, if we're selecting projects that are going to be funded, it would be selected based on the first round, so those that were submitted prior to the first round announcement. And then if their applications continue to come in after that, it'll be similar. It'll follow a similar pattern. So to be considered for funding, you need to submit an application within 30 days of the NOFA being posted at the latest.
Okay. Let's see here. Next question. Is there a particular depth of affordability? You talked about extremely low all the way up to moderate. Is there a depth of affordability that the city is going to be prioritizing throughout this process?
No. I mean, what we specify in the RFP in terms of the affordability range is what we're not really prioritizing one over the, it's just the entire range of AMIs that we're looking at.
Okay.
So maybe the question is more on like, is there a priority, certain percentage of ELI, the units that are expected based on previous NOFAs? Maybe that's where that question is coming from.
Yeah, like are we going to be focusing on ELI or VLI, or is every submission going to be treated the same?
I mean, it's sort of, it's also a little bit structured based on the funding source as well. But we do, you know, for example, if we're using low-mod funding source, then up to 60% AMI is what's allowed. If we're using part of it as from Measure E, we can go a bit higher. So if we're asking about AMI ranges, the funding sources will affect that. But overall, if we're asking, is ELI, like, are we expecting a certain percentage of ELI units in every proposal, that we have not specified anything like that in the RFP.
Okay. Next question. This person wants clarification on the RFP and the NOFA. So the question is, can you explain how the RFP and the NOFA relate to one another? And what is the purpose of having two separate components?
I'm trying to, so the RFP continues, it continues for 12 months, and applications can continue to come in. But the NOFA has a window. So Chelsea, are you here? I can't see you at all, but if you are, can you unmute? We can't hear you if you did.
Hello.
Okay, could you address that NOFA window? I think you can describe it clearer.
So the RFP is going to be the basis of our scoring for the NOFAs. So the NOFAs will release at their timings in both May and in the fall, and there will be a 30-day window that we will continue to collect applications. But the RFP is to guide our scoring for the entire 12-month period, if that helps clarify your answer.
Thank you.
And so to the person who asked that question, if you need further clarification, just let us know in the chat. All right, so back to the timing. It looks like we have some questions. Some people are kind of interested in the nuts and bolts here. So is there a specific deadline by which someone has to submit an application to be considered in the first round of funding?
I think I addressed that though. Chelsea, I think I mentioned that it's at latest needs to be submitted within 30 days of the NOFA publication. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're not unmuted, Chelsea. Chelsea,
Chelsea, did we lose you?
can you unmute? If you're talking, you're not unmuted. Okay, maybe she has a technical. I did mention, oh, there she is.
Sorry,
Okay.
here I am. So, Jeff, could you possibly elevate me to a host and then I won't have to keep asking for permission?
Oh, yeah, I thought
Uh,
I thought I had already
Is
made you.
Is that why
Um,
it's taking time?
That is
Okay.
why it's taking time. I apologize, everyone. So once we post a notice of funding availability, that notice of funding availability applications need to be submitted within 30 days to be considered for that funding available.
Right, but we have applications that have been submitted prior to the publication of the NOFA that are
Correct.
they're going to be
So
considered as well. That's why I'm saying latest within 30 days of the publication of the NOFA. So if you've submitted now, great. But the latest you can submit to be considered for the first round needs to be within 30 days of the NOFA publication. I hope I
correct.
said that right.
Correct. So we will consider all applications received prior to a NOFA being announced and up to 30 days after.
So if you didn't get awarded in that round and you're in the wait list and you've already submitted something, we will continue to be looking at those for the second round when it's published.
Okay. All right, so Chelsea, sorry about that. You should be a co-host now, so you should be able to speak. All righty. The next person I can answer, the next person is asking if I can share the link where the wait list is posted. And just to be clear, the wait list doesn't exist yet. We're still the staff is still going to go through the process of scoring all the submissions and all the applications. So we will publicize the wait list and the link where people can access it when it comes into existence. But there is no wait list yet. We still have to go through the scoring process.
Yeah, because the projects have not been, they're still being in the process of being scored, I believe.
Yeah.
And Chelsea, how often will we be refreshing that wait list? Do you have an idea on that?
Monthly is our goal.
Okay. So please continue to check the website.
Okay. And do we have a approximate time frame of when we're going to be able to start making financing commitments to projects that are awarded through the first NOFA?
I'm sorry, when they would actually receive the award letter saying, okay,
Yeah.
now, when that 30-day window closes, so as applications are coming in, we're scoring the applications. We're publishing what their scores are. They're being, ranked based on that. The waitlist is being published. Then the NOFA gets published in May. And we continue to score and accept applications within 30 days of that. So I don't know if I'm answering this. The question was exactly, what was the question again?
Verbatim, it is, when will you be able to issue commitments to projects that are awarded through the first NOFA?
So Chelsea, there's a assessment period of after the 30 days window closes.
Correct. So after the 30-day windows closes, we want to take about 3 to 4 weeks to continue to ensure that we've got everything and continue the assessment. So we'll be able to submit our intent to award letters to qualified applicants probably in early July. Actual commitments do require city council approval, so those first city council approvals would happen in August.
Okay, let's see here. Next question. Does the city expect to award all $50 million in the first NOFA round? Or would there be any reason for the city to withhold some of that funding for down the line?
There would not be any reason if there's a demand for the 50 and the proposals that are submitted have been scored high enough and they're awarded, we will award the entire 50 million across the projects that's a score high.
Okay. Next question. I'm just going to read it to you. I don't fully understand it, but why is the North San Jose growth area the only growth area on the 2040 growth map that would receive points?
Interesting question. we added it for a reason. Chelsea, do you want to talk a little bit about it?
This is tied directly to our housing element goals of increasing affordable housing development in North San Jose specifically.
So there are aspects of the housing element items that we've added to the RFP because those are a priority based on the housing element plan.
All right. I am going back to the chat right now. I don't see any more questions, but we have time. So if anybody else would like to submit questions, please feel free to do so. And I'll just make sure I haven't missed anything yet.
Yeah, I think that's section 7 of the scoring. That's where that question is coming from. And the Diridon station as well as the North San Jose growth areas are coming from the housing element.
Okay, another question. A little bit involved here. How will you ensure that eligible uses of the funds are followed? For example, if funds for a project are limited to ELI or VLI, how are we going to make sure that they don't get allocated towards projects that would not meet those criteria?
It wouldn't be allowed to be applied to anything else. So the funding sources that we are using for the NOFA have requirements around where they should be invested into. For example, low to moderate housing income fund, right? Low mod. You cannot put it in any project that has above 60% AMI units. So measure is restricted to, I think, 80%. Chelsea, you can correct me if I'm wrong. So all various funding sources that we put into our NOFA have their own requirements and regulations. So we wouldn't do that at all. I think I answered that. I hope.
I think so. If I can piggyback. We'll fund the highest scoring projects that meet the requirements of the funding sources available within that NOFA, I think is a good way to kind of formulate that.
So then I believe we'll be disclosing what the funding sources are going to be, Chelsea.
Correct.
That should help. And then usually in the past, we used to attach like the requirements, like little summary page of what the funding requirements restrictions were. So probably we'll attach an exhibit similar to that to clarify what those restrictions are.
And that is attached to the RFP currently. That's available for download at this time.
The funding source sort of reference sheet?
Correct.
Okay, great. That's good. Oh, yes, I see that. Attachment A, Housing Department funding sources. So if you take a look at that, you'll see the restrictions for each funding source. And then when the NOFA is published, it will break down what funding sources are being used for that $50 million. And that'll give you a framework of, okay, what's the limitation in terms of AMIs and where they're being applied to. So I think if there's a project that has 80% AMI, we're not going to use a low mod fund towards those units. I hope I answered that.
So let's see here. See if we have any more questions in the chat. I think we have gone through all of them. Just to call everyone's attention to it, at the bottom of the chat, I just put a link in there. That is where we're going to post all the materials from today. So that's going to include the recording of this meeting, the transcript of this meeting, as well as the presentation that Bonnie went through at the beginning of the meeting. So that will all be at that link. Give us a couple days to get it all posted. It should be posted no later than Monday, as well as you'll find there at that link the recordings and transcripts and so forth from the previous meetings that we've had in our community engagement series. I'll put my email address in here again. I put it in earlier, but I'll post it again. Just so everyone has it. If you have any questions that you'd like to send to me, feel free to do that. And yeah, no other questions are coming up. It's been 5 minutes since our last question, so I think we've probably exhausted them for now. But
Jeff, just a question.
Yeah.
In the links that you put, did you also put the link for our regulations?
Yep. Oh, I
Okay.
put a link to the RFP page where the rolling RFP is located. I can include a link to the new regulations. Give me a second to grab that, and I'll paste it in there.
So I encourage all applicants to look at our regulations as you're reviewing the RFP.
Okay, hold on a second. Actually, another question just popped up, but let me just post this. Hold on a second. There you go. That's the link that Bonnie was just talking about.
Yeah, so review the regulations and make sure you also share it with your lenders and other funders so they understand what restrictions the city has and what our policies are regarding our funding.
Okay, and actually, Bonnie, we did get another question while I was doing that. So the question is, if both affordable housing expansion areas and growth areas are priorities for the city council, why are more points being awarded for the growth areas?
Yeah.
And
Okay, let me see again the question. So we have section 6, affordable housing in an expansion area. And then, or continued investment area. And then the question is North San Jose growth area?
No, it's so we have the city council has prioritized both the affordable housing expansion areas and the growth areas, those two separate things. And then the person is asking, since the city council has prioritized them both, why are we why are we giving more points to the growth area projects? And
that is correct, actually. There's 10 points on the growth area versus 5 points for expansion or continued investment area. Okay, Chelsea, you designed the scoring, so I'm sure you can answer this question.
I think the affordable housing expansion areas are a priority of our council, which is why we do give it some points, but it is also a high priority within our housing element to get in some of these growth areas. So we designated additional points for those. So if some of the affordable housing expansion areas overlap with these growth areas that we're highlighting, so you can kind of get additional points for both spaces. I hope that helps.
So I don't think the message is that one is a priority over the other.
Correct.
Okay, and again, if for all of you who've asked questions, if you need further clarification, please send us emails and ask, and we're happy to give you further clarifications on anything that you might want to talk about further. But thank you, everybody, and it was a lively Q&A session. So we appreciate all the questions that you guys submitted. I will be sending out another invite for next month's meeting. Next month, we're going to be talking about emergency interim housing and some of the new dashboards that we're offering up to be transparent with the constituents across the city as to what we're doing with emergency interim housing. And that will be on June 5th. But again, I will be sending out an invite to all of you and many thousands of your neighbors in the next couple of weeks for that. So again, thank you very much. And just one last quick plug. May is Affordable Housing Month. So today we are actually kicking off Affordable Housing Month. So this is an appropriate topic for us to be covering. And I would encourage everyone to visit SV at Home, their website, and you can get lots of information about lots of events happening throughout the month to celebrate and recognize Affordable Housing Month. So